So at the present, we have achieved this favorable condition for the situation, which is free from all the negative conditions or the unfavorable conditions, and we fully qualified and have all the positive conditions to engage into this spiritual.
어디 인자는 가서 다 튕기도 봐 대신 이게 선배관을 하는 다 누구랑도 돼 가서 다 다시 교시가 다시 뭐 삼는 다시 들어졌어.
So in other words, if we have full of unfavorable conditions and we are free from all these favorable conditions, then we don't have choice of our practice.
나 튕기 산다 산다 열디 얘네 하는 거라고 그래 가서 제가 튕기 산다 산다 열디래 얘네 하는 거라고 그래. 지 두고 전에 뭐 봐.
At the present, we do have all these favorable conditions, which is qualified, to engage into the practices. But situation where if we are, terribly in bad situation or terribly full of obstacles, then there's danger of leaving our practice.
어디 인상하는 데는 전체를 되게 도과해 가지고 그거 맞게 봐람. 얘기한 데가 정말 시즌 맞는 거죠.
So that is because without having realized the qualities of the perfect human rebirth, and or even if we have understood that, then we haven't meditated upon them properly.
다 전체 그 도과지 깨는 때도 강한 때도 있는데 맞아서 최고 맞았어. 이게 기부전에 양다 기부전에 니고 개매 상상도 되게 매도 더라도 있었는데 기부전에 최대 쇼마도 되지.
So if we gain the realizations of the perfect human rebirth, then even if one is facing all these difficulties, one will not leave our practice, and even if one is even if one is enjoying our life or a very pleasant situation, and one thinks that these things does not have any essence, and then reflecting upon them, then we will continue our practice.
나도 내가 그냥 이나야 보다 최대야 그게 더 가서다. 상바야고 다 그봐. 당장 경제 상황도 초라면 내가 다시 집에 지고 이나야는 최대야 그게. 내가 그게 최고로 나란다야 그거. 지야가 최도는 최대야 그게. 굉장히 되야리야. 그거 최고시 시야 맞은 거지. 네. 나한테 내가 정신을 얻었어.
Then the another fall is that even though having understood all this, perfect human rebirth and how rare it is to achieve and so on, but we always distracted, or we first of all always engaging into occur all these, requirement conditions to engage into the practice, then we are always unable to engage into the main body of the practice. That is because of the faults of not having meditated upon death and impermanence properly. So, in other words, if one had the wish not to waste this perfect human rebirth, And up on top of that, adding the meditation of death and impermanence, especially concerning about the futures and so forth, then our practice will become more pure.
On that, any said the Gita, showing don't drink good enough, then you can show you on
Otherwise, if one's practice is very much involved or influenced by this very life's pleasure, then that is under the influence of it will be concerned. It does not become pure Dharma.
제가 인간 그 천리배 비질 만들어 줘. 그렇지만 편절을 봐 아니 그냥 하나도 봐서 어떤 동안에 놓쳐.
So if one's practice is not under the influence of this very life's pleasure or the it will concern, then that means one's meditation upon the impermanent is pure.
이제 괜찮만 줘야 될 비게 다 가서 가서 비게 다가스 비게 다 가서 간다고 하는 미신은 만 민민들 가서 다 가서 봐 가도록 다 되는데 아니 괜찮겠네.
So when we talk about going to the future lives, if it is just traveling from one place to another, or going with this body itself, then there's not much problem of it.
단대가 멜로디 이게 교관 상망고를 반다야 그지 뭐 등거지 연한다 이제 걸어가고.
And then if we have the confidence that this very life or this body will last for a while, then still there's no danger of it.
어제인가 단대를 뒤엔데 있는 거라고 그러지.
So this very life or this body, this human body which we have now, is the result of having created many different causes in the past. So to have such an opportunity again future, if one has the confidence that one have created enough to produce such an effect or such a result, then it's okay. So by considering or by deeping down in one's mind, if one does not find such a cause that one has created to produce such an effect, then one has to be careful about it. One has to take care about it. So to create or to accumulate the cause to produce such a result or such an effect, then the causes are, one should practice or engage into the practices of the renunciation that were explained in the Simple Capable Beings part. And then, especially meditating upon the particular suffering of the three lower realms and then general sufferings of the cycle of existence, then, the thought to seek liberation becomes more and more stronger, and one will avoid the clinging at the appearances of this life. Still, if one's desire or intention is very much directed towards this very life's pleasure and happiness, that means, one does not have acquainted one's mind with the practice of renunciation of the Lord Capable Beings path.
And the Benjamin of the Granny Castle, then depend on Dortuna. Singing Nation Dortuna, because I don't know the concept of the Job concept. 좀 나션 도가 있는 나션 도고는 무슨 것들 교화로 그러는 다 취해진다 그랬어.
If one is able to abandon clinging and attachment towards this very life, then whatever activities that we perform through our body, spirit, and mind becomes fruitful for our future lifetimes to come.
취해서 그다 되게 선디 샤비. 지금 처음 편절을 봐 하는 편 도야지. 이제 교주가절이야. 아니 취해서.
So when we talk about Dharma practice or spiritual practice, means like abandoning this very life's purpose and creating hope to have a result as happiness, at least for the future lifetime.
That's in the kind of Yananda medicine sometime amongst the things. Simply Lady Pemba, but Lady Pemba, Lady Pemba, so who are Kavayama, 2 million in the Sivan and the Pazam and what you are, Lady Pemba, so to Tena or 30 in height of the Kado, Lady Pemba, so the Dura Raman, and the 2 million by Sia Pazam and what you are.
So, this very life, whether it is successful or not successful, half is already finished, half is already passed away. And then even that half, the remaining part of half, we are not quite sure when that actually comes, because it's not a kind of fixed, even though it is determined for a certain period, but there's a lot of obstacles and interferences can occur, and we may be dead before the actual time comes.
다가나 실이 다 저와 세대를 하고 있는데 저와 치만데 안 요즘에 그냥 탐네 내가 양 내가 상고 탐바도 양 나리야 판단나 실전 그래 고 양라야 요것이 맞나 만도야 아니야 지고 요것이.
So in the same way, even if we achieve such a state in the future, then still, the karma to experience this kind of existence is extinguished. Then again, we have to go through similar situations. Therefore, if one is able to make free completely from the entire cycle of existence, then one will have more confidence and more, more relaxed. So, in order to be free from the sufferings of the three realms of the cycle of existence or the entire cycle of existence, one has to develop the strong wish to get out of the cycle of existence or wish to be free from the cycle of existence.
So,
in order to generate such a thought, wishing to be free from the suffering of three realms or the cycle of existence, then first of all we need to know the nature of suffering of these two realms.
At
present, we do not know even the levels of suffering that we have in the cycle of existence. So it is very important to know those levels of suffering at the first or at the beginning. So, then on top of that, if you know the suffering as a suffering and suffering as a fault, or suffering as a disadvantage, something which we do not wish, then we develop the wish to be free from them. So in the similar way, the example that if the bird always swims in the pond or in the ocean, then at one stage if the ocean is become frozen or ice, then the bird knows or learns that cannot swim anymore in that ocean, and because it's frozen, then we'll try to move in another different places. In a similar way, if we learn, the cycle of existence and the nature of suffering, which is something we do not wish, is unbearable, then we look another place of liberation, and the state which is free from this kind of existence.
What's the in the so and the castle? Something a koala and the castle, Kawachibala and the Kaza Lamla and the Kawata, Lamalava from the Yatini, Yamber Pundipa. It was come down.
So, in order to get freedom from the cycle of existence, then we need to train in the path, or we need to practice on the path. And the paths are such as the three training, and we have to engage into the practices of the three training.
That you know, that
so among those three trainings, then on the practices of the middle incapable beings path, the practice of morality is the most essential practice.
But you would drink it and the shoot somebody man on it. I was similar on the
So if you don't have a strong renunciation that you can find from the middle capable beings path, then it is hard, or that becomes an obstacle, great obstacle to surpass into the Mahayana path.
What means are all of the and the Kodang somewhat to enter on a little at the city and the lock had in the Haloka. The Ninja Shimbody, and it's a mass and the Ninja Geshela.
So if one has a strong understanding that the oneself is facing unbearable situation and having had to go through this undesirable situation in cycle of existence, then later it easily able to develop compassion for other sentient beings.
The Ninja Shimbody Gena and Ninja Shimbody Yana Yana Genjamala Gena has some Shimbody.
So, having generated a very strong sense of compassion upon all sentient beings and continuing or carrying on such a compassion within one's mind, often on, then induced by that compassion, then one will generate extraordinary attitude, a proper sense of extraordinary attitude.
But the Nebel has on the bed and shooting what you never.
So then, on the basis of that, if one is able to fully develop that extraordinary attitude, then it is quite easy for us to generate the altruistic attitude or the bodhicitta.
Oh, that's interesting to be around the German in the missing in your temper in the so be a person should have around there.
So the other one is developing the spontaneous bodhicitta or the creative bodhicitta. It entirely depends on how strong the extraordinary attitude we have, or we call.
사상 쇼침버지 연안에 전적을 생각해서 경제분들이야 산재 공방 도이 인생에 아주 섬이야네 본도 투야죠.
So if we have fully developed sense of extraordinary attitude or the unusual attitude, then we can actually seek the enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings.
사상 쇼침은 나가 산재 공방 도이 인생에 아니라 안개가 나면 태명을 남고배
So if you do not, in other words, if you do not have the unusual attitude, that is strong, then if you wish to attain enlightenment, and there's danger of always falling into the solitary realizers path.
그래서 디고시는 그 생계인지 생계의 가상을 알아요.
Because the distinguishing factor between Mahayana and Hinayana is that of the Mahayana mind generation, or the bodhicitta.
어쩌다 생각하는 그 가상들
Therefore, since we always have been hearing about the extraordinary attitude or the unusual attitude, I just have to remind you, but do not have to go into detail. For some, without even reminding, maybe they might have spontaneously in their mind. So for some, if it is forgotten, then I'm just trying to remind you. So please develop the motivation, at least generating the creative sense of bodhicitta or altruistic attitude. So the topic here is being requested on the three principal aspects of the path. Anila Sanjikanta already taught on the mind of renunciation and the mind of bodhicitta. So she requested to talk about the third principle, that is the on the emptiness. So in other words, if we do not have the mind or the wisdom which understands the phenomenal mood of abiding, then even if your mind is well acquainted with the mind of renunciation and the altruistic attitude or the bodhicitta, one is unable to cut the root of cycle of existence. So as it is said that father is very skilled in method and mother is very skillful in wisdom. In a similar way, like we are born not only from mother and not only from the father, with combination of their blood and blood, then I know we have this body, or we are born. We are the result of this. For example, to produce the fruit or the flower, then it does not only come from the mere seed, or in other words, it does not also come, entirely depending upon water or the soul. With combination of all of these conditions and the cause as a seed, then you produce little flowers or the fruit and so on. In a similar way, to produce the result of the enlightenment, then we have to depend upon the causes of the method and the wisdom. So, since it is dependent upon the path, the method and wisdom path, for that, then you have to have a proper understanding of the basis of the two truths. So therefore, Lama Tsongkhapa has said here in his three principal aspect of the path, saying that even if you have acquainted well with the mind of renunciation and the bodhicitta, if you do not have the right understanding of the wisdom realizing emptiness, you are unable to cut the root of cycle of existence. Therefore, strive in every means to realize the dependent arising or the dependent related phenomena. And actually, he should have said that you should strive in the means, every means to understand the emptiness, but still he have said that, strive every means to realize the dependent arising.
That then the secretary and the Kato Tara.
So when we talk about dependent arising or the dependent related phenomena, there are varieties, growth level of dependent related phenomena and the subtle level of dependent related phenomena.
That then the secretary and the Kato. Then the Tama did the money to the Talon.
So this subtle dependent arising or the dependent relationship does not become an aid or the means to realize the emptiness. That subtle dependent arising can only be achieved or realized after having gained the direct realization of emptiness.
What in the tender Rawa and the color center? Tender Rawa and
So it is this growth level of dependent arising using as a means or the method, then we try to understand the emptiness. So when we talk about emptiness, without going through lots of investigation and analysis, we cannot right away meditate upon it. So in other words, if you try to meditate right away, without having done lots of investigation and analysis, that becomes a creative emptiness. So since it is said that strive every means to realize the dependent arising, so first of all, we got to have rough idea of the dependent arising that is posited by the law tenets of schools. So among the four Buddhist schools, below the Chittamatra school, they observed dependent arising as impermanent phenomena. So all this Vaibhashika school and Southern school accept this dependent arising as impermanent phenomena or things. Among all these schools, then there's Sangika, so Southern Madhyamika school is a little better because they observed dependent arising as things which exist depending upon their parts and particles. So, in other words, if you have a right understanding of the dependent arising, how the things exist depending upon their parts and particles and their causes and conditions, and the causes and effect or result, then it helps to prevent or close the doorway to the extreme of nihilism and extreme to the eternalism. So below the Sangha Mother Maker school, all the other schools exert dependent arising as a something, naturally existent. Depending upon that, then they exert dependent arising. So it is only the Prasangika Madhyamika who exerts the dependent arising and does not depend upon natural existence or its own characteristics. So since we have to discuss on the dependent arising, actually Anila requested to talk about simple way on this topic, but it becomes maybe more harder to understand. Even if it is not clear today, since we are continuing this topic for the following few days, so it might become more clearer by then. So actually, accordance with the Prasangika Madhyamika school, or that's the highest school in these tenets, the word dependent related is ten and del. Ten means dependent and del means related. So thus by indicating the ten, negates or rejects the inherent existence, and then just by expressing the del and affirms the conventional existence. Because the eye-grasping ignorant or the self-grasping ignorant grasps and clings that the object is being existing inherently and truly in their own side. So when that mind or when that notion hears the dependent arising, then it harms to such a concept. So when we talk about the emptiness, there's a lot of different interpretations and a lot of misinterpretations about it. So when we talk about emptiness, it means empty of something. So here, empty of inherent existence. So just saying the emptiness affirms that something exists beside. And there are some system or some philosophy that exert that the conventional conventional level of phenomena does not exist. It is just conceptually, conceptually appearing. Then, such a idea or such a theory you can also find. In other words, in true sense, if you do not have the conventional level of phenomena, then you can't assert the two truths, or you can't posit the two truths. So generally, the inherent existence, truly existent, naturally existent, existing from its own side are same in the meaning, but that's synonymous in both. So generally, for us to have the direct sight or direct vision of the reality, the obscuration or the obscuration which obscure to see that reality is the self-grasping ignorance. So when the self-grasping ignorance obscures the nature of reality, then all this then it also stops such as the attachment, hatred, and anger. All this becomes a support to obscure together. So then, this self-grasping ignorance obscure the nature of reality and supported or employed by, then it or the ignorant employs the attachment, hatred, and anger, or conjoined with their hundreds of other delusions and becomes more thicker. So we are treasured by this self-grasping ignorance from beginningless lifetime up until now, and therefore this obscuration is very thick to have the sight of reality. Therefore, this grasping ignorance or the self-grasping ignorance is very concrete and very, very, solid.
Tibet now on the Tung Gava Stable Town, Karikava Stable Town, Karkala. Then began Dasha Zabalaya. Then it's another division of the Damada Tayo, because in another word, even this temporary disease such as jaundice and so forth can make great mistake, like such as seeing white shell, corn shell as yellow, like having fallen in mountain scene as green, and so on. That's such a temporary disease can cause this much faulty vision. So then, in our case, then we are always tortured by this disease of the self-grasping attitude, and we are always ready to arise, or manifest the delusions such as attachment, hatred, and anger, and so forth. So, although we do not wish any kind of suffering, but since we have this root of the suffering, which is the eye-grasping ignorance, very solidly, then we create infinite causes to suffer. So, although we wish very much in a state of liberation and enlightenment, but because of this eye-grasping ignorance or the self-grasping ignorance is so solid and so concrete, which becomes great obstacles for this goal. So it is because we do not have the right understanding of the eye-grasping ignorance. That makes the understanding of emptiness very difficult and very hard. So if you know the actual mood of the eye-grasping ignorance or the self-grasping ignorance, then the understanding of emptiness is very easy. 제가 일단 도마베가 댄저가 두지가 댄 도마베가 가서다 댄저가 달라 댄은 되게 다 가서 걸었다 와 주시기 시험.
Therefore, by employing this different dependent arising or the dependent relationship as a logic or as a method, then we need to learn how to cut the root of cycle of existence by and having the understanding of emptiness.
제가 다른 걸 하고 단주가 놀아야 돼. 템바 마르베 준다 댄저고. 그 마다가 템바 주베자 주지가 뿐이 맞고 언제 다 네. 템바 주베 주지 댄저고 언제 다 아니 보통 많이 있어요. 오늘 다 잡아도 도도요. 다 리요.
So, because in the lower schools of thought, they exert the dependent arising or the dependent related phenomena as a means to establish, true existence, and that therefore, they are unable to establish the right understanding of emptiness, or they are unable to search the actual emptiness. Whereas Prasangika Madhyamika employs this method to exert or to prove the lack of true existence and lack of inherent existence.
다시 탐제가 배가 내로 또 같이 말랑한 당고배가 최 탐제 내가 나서 또 두고 말 당고물에 당고배는 또 relation 가사가 되는 또.
So in order to understand the reality or the actual mode of abiding of all phenomena, we cannot do that simultaneously. So before going into the other phenomena, first we have to use the basis of our own person or the self, and then searching the lack of true existence on the basis of that.
근데 가사로 채운 뒤다 가사고 채우러 가서 가사고 채운 뒤다네 가사가 사실은 엔딩한 말은 말했을 때나 이기면은 제가 담에.
So if you want to find out the reality of the person, then first of all we have to find out the person. So pointing the person, this is not me and this is not I, this is not I, that does not mean the emptiness, or that doesn't imply to the reality. And that is only what is known as separating the dependent related phenomena. This is not the actual mood of finding out the emptiness or searching the emptiness. Because if you start searching that my hand is not me and my head is not me, if you search this way, you will not find I. And that unfindable I on such analysis is not the emptiness. If you do that way, there's a danger of falling into the extreme of nihilism. So what we have to do here is that we have to analyze how the self-grasping attitude clings on its object. Because as ordinary like us, then whatever appearances we have, we appear in the form of being truly existent.
So
for the ordinary beings, whatever object that appears to the mind, then we appear them being truly existing, inherently existing, and existing from their own side. Then if you were to question, then isn't it such an object existent? Then of course the objects are existent. The objects are existent, but it does not exist as it appears to us. The mode of existence is not the way it appears to us. Just appearing, the object being existing from their own side, that does not imply to the self-grasping attitude or true grasping attitude. So if you start clinging or grasping as it appears to you, then that implies to the true grasping and self-grasping attitude. Because when we talk about the I or the self, then it does have a relationship with the mind and body. It does relate with mind and body. If you exert the I, which is separate from mind and body, then that becomes a non-Buddhist way of exerting the theories. So if you do not have any relation with the I and the mind and body, then we can't say that this is my head, this is my mind, and this is my body. And also we say that when we have a headache, I feel sick, or I feel headache. I feel sick. So if there's no relationship between the I and the mind and body, then we actually can't say that. So in actuality, the I do have a relationship with the mind and body. I know, and all the time, including in the dream times, we always, regard, and we always have the appearances of this sense of feeling of I. Then, we appear in that way, and then we cling and we grasp at it. And such a mind which clings in that way is also known as the innate attitude or innate self-grasping attitude. So our investigation should be made upon how the innate attitude also clings on its object. Then on such an object which is strongly held by the innate I-grasping attitude, then that object you can search like before, that the wind is not I, and that is not I, and the hand is not I, and so on. Because even when we talk from the point of view of Heart Sutra, it says no nose, no mouth, and so forth, which actually relates to the object of negation. The Heart Sutra is not saying, not rejecting or not refuting everything. Because at the beginning, when they proposed the question and when the answers were replied, and it says, they should view upon the phenomena lacking inherent existence. They do not reply saying, look upon they are non-existent. So, the point here is that this I-grasping attitude holds that I being existing from its own side and from its own right, inherently, independently. Then the point is, to search, whether that I exist at, it is clinged by that attitude.
지난 하나도 유교마다 매주 많이 보는도 전에 니잖아 여와체도 요.
And usually we are even unable to identify the I which is actually existent and then the I which isn't existent.
So
therefore it is very important to know or identify these two I's, the actual existent I and the non-existent I. When these two I's unifies or mixes up, then we are unable to realize the selflessness. Because this self-grasping attitude is very tricky. Sometimes it holds the existent I, and sometimes it also holds non-existent I. So it makes us confusion. Upon the non-existent I. So at that point is where you can actually make the investigation. So when that innate attitude is not that strong, then it shows or it clings or it holds both eyes in the form of mixture. So it is unable, it is difficult for us to distinguish these two. So that I which is clinged or held by that innate eye grasping attitude actually does not exist. The reason is that such a mind or such a attitude holds its object existing from its own side and it is from its own right. It doesn't hold that object being imputed upon the basis of designation. So, if one finds the object which is not imputed or not labeled upon the basis of designation, hold by that eye-grasping attitude, inherently and truly from its own side and from its own right, and should make the investigation upon that basis. Then if you find the empty on that basis, then one begins to understand the emptiness, or one is finding the emptiness. So, for example, if you are approaching the place where normally considered very dangerous and many robberies hanging around there, then if you just see pile of stone a very far distant, in the shape of human being, then you start viewing that object being a real human being, and you cling that is a human being, and you also develop sense of fear upon that object. So, induced by the fear, then, later you still, you start seeing that object is moving and it kind of approaching towards you and so on. And then, caused by that, then you develop more, your fears, your fear become more and more stronger, and then a lot of conceptual thoughts behind arise. And then at that point, then, you develop very strong sense of fear.
다 되네 마음이 세워져 다른 거를 봐는 그래서 다른 미 세워져 다냐 통성을 고 매만이 바지 간다고 통화를 봤어.
Once you are able to approach close by, where you are able to distinguish that it's not a person, where you are able to understand that object is not a person, then your fear is deceased or lost.
기통은 지는 다 파랑 남도자 잘해서 다시 그러면 또 그런 거네 다 미지 가지고 다 그냥 요 말을 곧또 비거래 되어 왔어.
So at that point, then it is your mind that imputes or that thinks that object is as an enemy and robbery and so forth. But from the object side, there's not even an atom of enemy or robbery existing.
그 안에 그게 다나 남도지 그런 거네 다 이거 나가래 맞도지기 그게 그 그런 거네 다 이거 나는 거 맞도지기 가서 그런 거네 또다 잡 두려 말아.
So it is we, who appear that object being a robbery or enemy, but from the object side, there's nothing as such existing.
남도 다 그런 거네 이거 다 이거 맞지?
Just our conceptual talk, that clings such object being an enemy and robbery, and then we develop fear depending upon that.
다들 미 세버 통은 다 당기 신나 기야가 그게 다다 이해를 봤어 이제.
So once
이해를
one realizes that object is not a person, and something else, then at that moment the strong fear is completely degenerated. Even that fear that we have developed depending upon that object is completely lost. So whatever superstitious thought we have generated or developed depending upon that object when we are in far distance is completely deceased. And a similar way, once one is able to realize the object which is grasped or clinged by the eye-grasping attitude is not actually existent, then then all these other conceptual thoughts or superstitious thoughts, such as attachment, hatred, and anger, completely perishes. Therefore, if we have a clear eyesight, which understand or which realizes the actual mode of abiding of the phenomena, then all the fears and the conceptual thoughts and all the superstitions within cycle existence completely crashes. So to develop such a wisdom eye, then we got to investigate upon the object, which is the clinged or grasped by the innate eye-grasping attitude. While the innate eye-grasping attitude is clinging on that object, side of our wisdom or side of our mind, small portion of our mind, should investigate upon that, whether such an object is existing on the body or on the mind, like that. So if you find such an eye which is clinged by the eye, innate eye grasping attitude, existing upon our physical body, then when we die, the physical body perishes to exist, and the thoughts arise that even that karma which we have accumulated during lifetime, we don't have to experience the result of it. Such a faults may arise. Because even in the word that we express says that my body, we are not saying that the body itself is the I. So if the I is existing on if the I is body, then this ends up becoming the the agent and the act one. It ends up becoming oneness. This agent and the act. So with such an investigation, if you find, if you do not find that I or the self, which is clinged by the innate I grasping attitude upon the basis of body, then it should exist on the basis of mind. So, if it is existing upon the mind, then because when the innate attitude appears such I, then it appears that that object being existing from its own side and from its own right concretely, which does not depend upon anything, and that does not become a dependent related phenomenon. And then, because when you talk about the mind, then a mind has a lot of parts, like the past mind and present mind and future mind and so forth. There's a lot of divisions of minds. Because if the I is existing upon that mind, then like existing inherently, from its own side, then the mind also should not have any divisions like a past mind and future mind and so on. Because if that were the case, then there ends up becoming many I's. And in another case, then if such a I, which is held by the I grasping attitude, is existing separate from these two, body and mind, then we should be able to point, beside, excluding the body and mind, but which we cannot. For example, if we have cows and horse, excluding the cow, then we can point saying this is horse. In the similar way, if that I existing truly and internally from its own side and from its own right, then we should be able to show, excluding the body and mind, saying this is the I. So therefore, the I, we cannot find such a I which is existing independently and internally from its own side and from its own right. We find only the merely labeled I or the merely imputed I upon the basis of designation. In other words, if that I is actually, is an existing I, then it should exist either one with body or separate from the body. There's no third way for that I to be existent. If the I is existing one with the body or one with the aggregate, then you have 5 aggregates, then the false arise that there should be a 5 I.
다 본거랑 어떻게 뭐 추이는 당연하시 공무가 세배 주되는 당기셔나 그래 뭐 생각이 또 호직된 거.
So if that I is existing separate from this 5 aggregate, then excluding 5 aggregate, you should still be able to point it, but we cannot.
어딘가 단대께지도 망고 시나 마시나 단전 행주군 된지도 따와 송마도나 그마야 그만다 그래서 망고 시나 시라 그런 거 말았어.
So whether we can talk this way, lot or not, if one is unable to recognize the object which is held by the self-grasping attitude, then all these following talks or the informations may not help much.
장고를 비교하다 고만의 팀동이나 고만 모시는 팀동으로 봐.
Because if you, for example, if you want to punish a thief, first of all you have to recognize the thief, and then you can punish him.
엄마시는 팀다라고 말해봐.
If you do not recognize the thief, you cannot punish him.
장고배 안에 단정의 집에 다 비교해 대라 그 자주시고.
So at the beginning, it is very important to analyze how the self-grasping attitude holds that I.
말하면서 파업에 딱딱 많이 고려만에 주더라. 가진 지금으로 된 심바도 여bat 나시죠 삼단. 남간 때바지 기초에 마셔봤지. 그 나시 이거 삼을 파 딱딱 많이 막 고려 말하는 거냐 말하는 거냐 말하는 거냐 주바가 여bat 시샤천 한국 태어나야 이야기가 들어 줘보던 거였어.
So at the beginning, the innate attitude or innate eye-grasping attitude clings upon that body. So right that moment, you shouldn't try to investigate or analyze. For a while, you should support it to fully develop or fully generate that kind of clinging, and then start to investigate upon that.
메가시아 비례다 다음에 공원도 다음에 마고버서 당고 다음에 말하고 보셔서 요 말아봐. 스담베가 단전이 비가 진주기 되는 말 당신의 주바 드라미 드라나 자주서 드라나 안 검정을
For example, some practitioners, when they meditate upon the selflessness, at the beginning it is hard to find the selflessness. So what they do is for a certain period of time, they just meditate upon the self-existence, how the innate attitude holds such a self, and will support that and carry on for a while.
다가랑 공원도 니만 지금 가사가 단적인 집에 다들라고